Welcome to the first ever podcast episode of Crime Talks. Since I'm a Central Florida native, this first episode is going to be a case that's a little close to home, and that is the case of the Eustis vampire. Please read the trigger warnings for this episode in the description. Rod Ferrell's parents were just teenagers themselves when he was born in Murray, Kentucky in March 1980. His father joined the military soon after his birth, and he was raised by his mother, Sandra Gibson. They lived on and off with her parents over the years, and according to court documents, Ferrell claimed he was raped by his maternal grandfather at just the age of 5. However, no criminal charges have ever been filed against his grandfather in relation to these allegations. When they weren't living with his grandparents, though, they would stay in public housing, and Sandra supported them working as an exotic dancer and sometimes even a sex worker. His mom actually pled guilty once for trying to entice a friend of Rod's to have sex with her. I'm not sure what age that was at, but Sandra and Rod found themselves in Florida, and while she was there, she actually met a group of people who called themselves vampires. They would actually drink each other's blood. They would also dress up like vampires, and Rod was immediately drawn into this circle by association. I guess you can say it was normal to him. He didn't see it as being unusual or anything like that. Rod also claims to have knowledge of human sacrifice being done by this group of vampires in Florida. So his mom takes him back and forth from Kentucky to Florida. They have connections in Florida with vampires, and they also have connections of vampires in Kentucky. So when Rod was around the age of 12, he says that he witnessed a man sacrificed with a dagger, and he says he saw blood that was being passed around and drank out of a communion cup. So supposedly this wasn't the first time this clan has sacrificed others for their vampire cause, and Rod was actually eventually deemed a blood doll, which is someone people would constantly feed off of for like the whole clan. And honestly, it goes without saying how many issues drinking human blood can cause to the human body, but it's not good. At the age of 15, Rod was actually expelled from Florida schools for drugs and violence, no surprise there. And a clan in Kentucky decides, well, we'll just take Rod as one of us. We'll take him and we'll take care of him. But it was essentially just a bunch of teenagers that live alone together in an empty house. So Rod started to believe that he was this 500-year-old vampire with some ancient demon manifesting himself into Rod's body. These teenage vampires would extract each other's blood with typical razor blades, and some of them even sharpened their canine teeth so that they could just bite the skin themselves to drink from it. This particular clan, though, came with a set of rules, and Rod found himself once again not wanting to submit to a higher authority. So Rod actually created a different group made of himself and 3 other people: Scott Anderson, Dana Cooper, Charity Keese, and Charity was actually Rod's girlfriend at the time as well. So in 1996, Rod met Heather Windorf, Florida, at Eustis High School, and she was immediately drawn to Rod and his vampire clan. Eventually, Rod moves back to Kentucky. So he tells his Kentucky people they're gonna go and they're gonna save Heather from Florida so that she can go and be with them. Now, Heather was telling Rod that Heather's father was very abusive to her, and so they all basically believed that they needed to save Heather from an abusive home. It's believed that they have been planning this runaway for about 7 months, and they were in close correspondence with each other from Kentucky to Florida, racking up hefty phone bills close up to like $1,000. So when Rod got to Florida, they met up at a cemetery, and they planned to run away and steal Heather's parents' SUV in order to get from Florida to Kentucky. But Heather had a boyfriend at the time. Heather's boyfriend had asked to see her before she left, and he was trying to get her to stay. He's pleading with her, and so she was actually dropped off at his house, and Rod and Scott went to Heather's house. Heather's parents were Richard and Naomi. The night took a pretty drastic turn on November 25th, 1996, when Heather's sister got home and immediately called 911, stating that her parents had been killed and there was just blood everywhere. Police walked in and found Mr. Windorf face up on the couch, covered in blood and his head bashed in brutally. I mean, they described it like hamburger meat. They couldn't even point out any of his features. He had also been stabbed in the heart. Miss Windorf was face down between the kitchen and the dining room, and she had a huge hole in the back of her head and blood just all around her. So there was a tire iron that was found belonging to the Windorfs. So after the murder, Rod, Heather, and the clan head to Baton Rouge, Louisiana for refuge with another vampire clan. But after 3 days on the run, no food and no money, it was actually Charity who ends up calling her mom on a payphone and told her mom everything that happened, and her mom reported it to the police. So it wasn't too long after that they were caught and arrested on November 28th, 1996. After the arrest, Rod agrees to cooperate with the police only if they allow him a final visit with his girlfriend, Charity. So the initial plan was to sneak in and rob Heather's parents, but Rod said he just snapped, and it quickly turned from burglary to his desire to kill. He bludgeoned Mr. Windorf with so much velocity that his teeth were shattered and fragments were shattered all over Mr. Windorf's body. Miss Windorf had just come out of the shower, and Rod says he comes face to face with her as soon as she comes out of the bathroom. So he tells her, "Look, I just killed your husband and I'm gonna kill you next." So immediately she starts fighting for her life. She was able to scratch him pretty hard and throw a cup of scalding coffee on him, but he struck her 4 times in the back of the head and she was dead. Rod said he didn't want anyone else to take the blame or suffer. He wanted to take full responsibility. After the trial, Rod was sentenced to death by electric chair. Rod says that he actually prefers death and it didn't really bother him. At 17, Rod held the record for the youngest prisoner in America on death row. Rod Ferrell is currently in prison at the Tomoka Correctional Institution in Volusia County, Florida. November 2000, the Orlando Sentinel reported Ferrell's death sentence was commuted to life in prison after the Florida Supreme Court ruled defendants must be 17 or older when they commit a crime for execution. Scott, the getaway driver, was charged with armed robbery and first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. But in December of 2018, Anderson's sentence had been reduced to 40 years, including time already served, so he will be 51 when he is released from prison. Dana was sentenced to 17 years for armed robbery and third-degree murder. She actually took a plea bargain, as well as Charity. Charity was served with armed robbery and third-degree murder, but she got 10 years. So initially, Heather was charged. She went through an extradition hearing, but a grand jury declined twice to convict her of having any part in the murder because she was at her boyfriend's house at the time that the murder was committed. She claims that she didn't know about the murder plan. A lot of people believe that she did, that she was a part of it. Heather's sister even claims that she heard Heather say that she wanted their parents to be dead. While on death row, Rod questioned everything he once believed in. He told himself, "I was once a man and I turned monster, and I will become man again no matter what it takes." There's actually 2 witnesses who overheard Heather saying she wanted her parents dead, as well as her sister. And again, she denies any claim to this. But in an interview, Rod says he's changed and is aware of everything he did and why he did it. He actually says that Heather approached him and said that she wanted her parents dead. But to him, he said it was like a pure high at the time. So now Rod knows that he is not a vampire. He's not immortal, and he says he lived the lifestyle of a vampire, but the actual murders have nothing to do with the occult. The murder was all him, his own choices, and he still takes full responsibility. Rod says his fellow inmates give him space because they think he's insane, and rightfully so. They nicknamed him the Count, which is just kind of hilarious when you think about it, but Rod tried appealing the courts in 2020 to overturn his life without parole charge, but was obviously denied. Heather is living her own life with her own family now. Doing great, you know, just living her life, whether she had involvement or not. So if you like true crime short stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. We will be having episodes on Mondays and Saturdays. We are going to do episodes on urban legends, spooky stories, ancient murders, mind-boggling murders. We really want to try to share episodes with you guys with cases that hopefully you haven't heard of yet. But as always, stay safe and thanks for listening.